This is the talkSPORT Daily Podcast, your home of the Six Nations. I'm your host, Alfie Reynolds.
And I'm former London Irish and England winger, Topsy Ojo.
And what a weekend of action we have to look back on. Super Saturday is set up nicely. There is so much to unpick, so let's get into it. Right, we'll bring you all the fallout in just a moment. As I say, we'll chat about the games that we've just seen. We'll tee up the final weekend and a Saturday that looks really, really intriguing to run you through it in terms of the results. Friday night, Ireland 27, Wales 17. And then Saturday, Scotland 50, France 40. Yeah, that isn't a typo. That really was the score at Murrayfield. And Italy's first ever victory over England, 23 points to 18. Topsy, we were both in Rome. Have you recovered yet? Are we still digesting everything we saw?
I thought I'd recovered, and then I picked up my phone. It is still ongoing. I mean, I don't think we'll have recovered till we get to Paris. And we see what's left of England's Six Nations campaign. I mean, first and foremost, congratulations, Italy. Piece of history, and actually a pleasure to be there to see that. I mean, the stadium was rocking, the lights were going, the music was pumping, just everything. And actually, the atmosphere changed, obviously, as the game went on. Like, obviously, when things changed in the last quarter, you could feel the crowd go, we can do this. We can really do this. They believed, the players believed. And yeah, celebrations all around at the end.
Yeah, more on that game in Rome in just a moment. I wanted to speak to you about the weekend as a whole, though. I feel like this is something that gets said every single year. Was this the greatest Six Nations weekend ever? But those are the conversations. I mean, it was remarkable, wasn't it? We had the continued Welsh resurgence on Friday night. 90 points at Murrayfield as Scotland produced one of their greatest Six Nations performances. And then, as we've just been saying, history for Italy against England. What a great weekend.
Yeah, it's absolutely up there because we're almost at the point now where I know Wales haven't got the win yet, but actually we're in a realm now where everybody can beat everybody. And we've never really had that in the Six Nations. And every time we've tried to predict what's going to happen, the opposite has happened. You know, trying to call results, trying to call what happens. I mean, it's been great. It's been great fun seeing how wrong we've been, but it's just meant that the tournament has kept delivering. What you think is going to happen doesn't happen. It's thrown up huge scores, upsets, historic victories, historic defeats. We've had everything. And then we go into the final weekend where 3 teams can win it. So you're going to have a Triple Crown decided game 1 and then the title decided in the evening pending on the results. So incredible stuff. It gives us everything we would have hoped for, and we just get to sit back and enjoy it all on Saturday.
If there's one thing we should take away from this Six Nations is do not try and make predictions. I guarantee you we're going to be sat in this studio in a year's time still making fools of ourselves with our predictions.
It's part of the game.
Of course
it's part
it is.
Of the role, and you know, it'd be fun to go back now, see how many we got right across the fixtures. Yeah, we'd be way off.
Let's not give the producers any ideas about how they could probably ruin our broadcasting careers in one fell swoop. Although actually, I think across the whole industry, anyone that has made a prediction, it's been so ridiculous.
We're all in the same boat.
So. Do you know what I will say about it, though, actually? Is, you know, I kind of jest in that every year at some point someone's saying, was that the greatest Six Nations weekend ever? I think it does underline how consistently this championship delivers, doesn't it? Like every year we get brilliant games, the unexpected, great storylines, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's the history of the tournament means that when these teams go head to head, like it is so fiercely contested. You got the best players going head to head. So actually on any given day, and that's, you know, when you get into the nuts and bolts of it, on any given day, if you are a small percentage off, the other team will beat you. And that's what makes it so special. You go in predicting what you think will happen, and ultimately sport will decide on the day, and then we get to discuss it all the next week and go again over a 5-week period. So it's been brilliant.
And also the nature of the Six Nations is the away days, the proximity, the history. Because that was something that I have to say kind of struck me in Rome, Topsy. And I've been fortunate. This is the first year where I've been able to properly do the away games. But the amount of England fans out there, and look, we're incredibly fortunate to do what we do and to go to these games. But how good was it being in Rome, spring sunshine, so many England fans around. Like, those England fans, despite the result, must have had an unbelievable weekend.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's probably one of the dates that goes in straight away. Rome away, you're like, that's a great weekend.
Definitely
doing that one.
Definitely.
Paris away this weekend will be similar. I think there'll be a lot of English in the house. But again, tells you where the tournament is, that actually the away support has been right up there. You know, I heard stories from Scotland, the amount of French fans that have travelled to Cardiff as well. So fans are travelling in their numbers to go and see this tournament, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and as I said, I know, look, when I say this, I know I'm very lucky that I get to go and get sent. But if people do ever get the opportunity to, it is well worth doing a Six Nations away day. Let's get into the action itself, Topsy. Italy 23, England 18. There's only one place to start. It's Rome. We'll get on to Italy in just a moment. I know it's such a significant moment for them. We're always going to have a bit of an English look at this sort of thing. What does this mean? I'll get straight into this. What does this mean for this England team and this Steve Borthwick England project?
Yeah, the question that's been doing the rounds.
We were having so much fun, weren't we, before I threw that?
Right. Well, it's good to start with this, then we can get rid of it and move on to the good stuff. Look, tough spot at the minute. No getting away from it, and questions asked about the coach. Is he the right man? And actually about the players. Are the players up to the level that they should be, that we expect them to be? They need to get through this weekend, obviously try and put their best foot forward, and then really dig into why 3 weeks ago everything was brilliant. They'd just beaten Wales. They were looking forward to kicking on in this Six Nations, and it's just gone horribly wrong. Every facet, from the game plan to the attack to the defence, is just not functioning, and they're trying to search for answers. They try and use the same principles that they have, and they're just not working. And it's tough, because they're probably doing the same things predominantly that got them 12 wins on the bounce. I was actually looking on the way here. I think the New Zealand game had to come from 12-0 down to win it, so they've had formula from recovering from slow starts. But there's this tournament, maybe a bit more time for others to look at them, analyse them, and have their number. We talked about the magnitude of the competition as well and the history behind it. There's just so much more that goes into it. And yeah, England have got some serious questions to answer. I mean, everyone's on about the game plan at the minute. All right, I had a really good look at that, and I guess having 48 hours has been quite helpful. So they're actually getting into point-scoring areas as good as anybody else, but their conversion rate is the second worst. So you go, right, game plan, the kick-heavy game plan is actually giving them opportunities to score points. So what's next? The attack. The attack's not doing its job. So you break that down. Is it coaching? Is Lee Blackett, who they brought in especially, is he being given more time, enough time? Is he being given the players that he needs to execute it? Are England being given the freedom to go and do it as well? They only seem to attack in certain areas of the pitch. But if you look at Scotland, look at France, even look at Ireland, actually, and as you would hope they're being coached, if it's on, it's on. No, England won't throw the ball from their 22, but it's just about making good decisions in the moment. So where's the space? If it's there, let's go after it. It doesn't just have to be reliant on the kick. But that being said, okay, kick-heavy strategy gets them where they want. Attack hasn't functioned. Why not? Is it the style? Is it the structure? Is it the execution? Good players making bad decisions? Getting turned over in the 22, so the set piece. So loads of factors come into that equation. Then you go, right, okay, kicking game, doing its job. Attack, not functioning. We need our defence to rescue us. The defence isn't rescuing them.
Isn't that part of the problem, though? I mean, you've just listed a lot of stuff there, and I think the only thing really in this whole Six Nations that you could say has been consistently good for England has been their scrum. You could say red zone entries if you wanted to, but the attack, the defence, the kicking game itself, I don't think has functioned anywhere near as well as it did in November. There are so many holes. Discipline has been a problem again. More cards at the weekend. England just look lost in the way they collapsed in the final 20 minutes. There are so many concerning elements to where England are at the moment, and it's kind of amazing that in 3 matches how much everything feels like anyway that it's crumbled apart.
And that's probably what's made it worse. This was working for so long. It was working really well. You go to Scotland, it doesn't work. You think, okay, maybe that's a one-off, but we've been good so far. You double down against Ireland, probably a bit worse. Italy,
definitely
actually,
worse.
For an hour, all right, we're winning, we're in the game. Then, like you say, then the discipline factor kicks in. What's it now? 7 yellows, 1 red, and they lose the game. So they're searching for different answers here, there, and everywhere, and they're just unable to come up with them. And they don't really have the pieces, I don't think, yet to adapt and do something different. So when I talk about the attack, I feel like they're missing from the squad that they're picking. I had a look back at who they had in the autumn available. So let's say Finn Baxter, for example. He was available, which meant you could rotate him and Ellis Genge. So you could get Genge carrying more.
And you had Will Stewart on the other side.
Will Stewart is a carry as well. So England are missing ball carriers. Ben Earl is doing as much as he can on his own, but you've got him and Tommy Freeman. What did I see on the way in it? I mean, I was amazed when I saw it, but after Ben Earl, England's top carrier is actually George Ford. which I was like, that can't be right. If it's wrong...
Jamie George?
No, George Ford.
Oh, throughout the whole Six
Yes,
Nations?
according
Wow.
to the Six Nations website.
Like,
So if
carried
it's
it a lot
wrong,
against
blame them.
Ireland
Yeah,
into
so I'm
blind
thinking
alleys.
Tommy Freeman isn't far behind. So you've got Ben Earl and Tommy Freeman. You need more than that.
The thing is, though, so I think there is blame to be spread amongst both the players and the coaches here. But if you look online, if you look at the feeling amongst England fans, I would say it's not far off being unanimous. It's as unanimous, I think it can be, that Steve Borthwick needs to go. You would have spoken to him after the game. I put it to him in the press conference of whether he still felt like he was the man to take this England team to where he ultimately wants to get them at the World Cup next year. He said he is. Is that fair? Do you think he deserves more time? I mean, fans listening to this will be saying he should absolutely go.
Like you say, opinion says that no, his time is done. Me personally, I feel like he should be given a bit more time, only because I think last year gives him a lot of credit. I think how he turned it around going to World Cup 23 gives him a lot of credit. But he'll only maintain that if he probably does the thing which perhaps just isn't him, is that he loosens the reins a bit. Give Lee Blackett more attack. Give him the players that he wants to then take this team to the next level. Because everyone talks about him and his data. And as we've just discussed, his way of playing the game gets England in the spots that he wants them into. So that bit of it is kind of working. He now needs to emphasise, right, attack, we need to be much better. And if the attack isn't functioning, our defence needs to be able to hold up so that we can get the ball back. I think we talked about France not having to make that many tackles because their attack was flying. The scoring points, things are good. So when your attack is functioning, you take the pressure off your defence. Or sometimes you use your defence to give you more attacking opportunities. So it is really hard. The other thing with Steve Borthwick, and he'll know that, everybody will know that, we see it when we speak to him, is that he's just not endeared himself to the English public. So in times of need, in times of a bit of crisis where you want the public to give you more time, they're like, well, why would we? He's not warmed himself to us. We don't see it in the interviews. We don't see it in the reaction. You look at Gregor, you look at the pressure he was under week 1 to week 2, was given time, turned it around. Even people talking about Andy Farrell, like Andy Farrell, a man you would run through a brick wall for. Would Steve garner that same response in Paris when there's a crisis? Who knows? Only the players can tell us.
I feel a little sorry for Steve Borthwick in that regard. You're absolutely bang on, by the way. I think he's not an orator, is he? And the kind of media-facing side of the job is not what he's most comfortable with, and that is a massive part of being England head coach. But I do feel a little sorry for him for how he is viewed in some regards, because we would have both had chats with him. And look, sometimes Steve Borthwick gives you very little in an interview. Sometimes you come away with having a really detailed rugby discussion, and it's really fascinating. I think the England fans haven't seen that, which is partly on the head coach. The thing I will say that is really concerning for England, I think leadership. There has looked like there's been a lack of leadership in these 3 games. And 2, if Steve Borthwick is the detailed head coach, right, that's his USP. Yeah. He is the most detailed head coach that maybe England have ever had. Well, the detail at the moment is letting England down. And I think that is a huge concern. We'll get onto their game against France this weekend in a moment. Italy, what a significant moment, not only for them, Topsy, but for the whole of the Six Nations. I think if we park the whole England stuff to the side for a moment, this was a brilliant result for the championship.
Absolutely huge, absolutely huge. And obviously, for me personally anyway, it'd been put to bed a long time ago, but for everybody that was calling for them to not be in the Six Nations, let's get Georgia in, and they're shareholders, so they weren't going anywhere, but to see how far they've come. What I actually really loved from the weekend was actually when I spoke to Quesada afterwards, he was talking about it felt a bit weird for them coming into a game where actually there was a bit of favouritism. They didn't feel like the underdogs, and they almost didn't know how to deal with that. But how they navigated the game, yes, they had to deal with some stuff, but they got stronger as it got on. And then when the yellow cards hit the last quarter, how they were able to put the foot down, grow the belief. And you look at the playing squad, great average age, some world-class players in that as well. You look at their defence, was pretty good. You look at the scrum. Actually, England had the edge on the scrum, probably won more penalties, but they've developed a really good scrum. And they can play some good rugby. So, I mean, they've got themselves into a brilliant place where we all love them now. We all want to see them. We all want to support them as well. And for the tournament, it's huge. It's brilliant. So it was a pleasure to be there, to witness it, to see the scenes and the celebrations. And yeah, fair play to them. They're on track for their best Six Nations ever if they can beat Wales.
Tommaso Menoncello's a hell of a player, isn't he?
That's what I mean. Just his ability to say, look, I'm silky, I can do a few different things, but actually there's a gap outside of Joe Hayes. I'm running through it and you can't stop me. There's Elliot Daly. I'm going straight through you. You can't stop me. And the ability to have a player that can just do that as well as the guard is absolutely huge. So like you say, if he's not there, Italy aren't where they are at the minute, but that's because they've developed him to the ability he can do now. England probably need to find their own guys that can do that as well. But we're on Italy now, so fair play to them. Really, really good stuff. And like I say, they looked at England and went, right, what do we need to deal with? The kicking game, discipline, defence, and stay in it for 80 minutes. And they did all of that.
Yeah, they did brilliantly as well, because when England, I thought when England had got it back to 18-10, Nicotera got sin-binned, I thought, you know what, this is not a particularly pretty England performance, but they're going to do what they need to do to just get a win, to end the kind of couple of defeats and the poor performances and move on. But then the way in which Italy were able to come back, they won the key moments late on, I thought was absolutely terrific. And you've referenced it already. The scenes at the end, the explosion of noise, the emotions down on the pitch, Casada with all his coaches, the lights were going off. It was a really brilliant moment. And I suppose one thing that I've reflected upon, Topsy, you mentioned the losing run for Italy. Should they be relegated from the Six Nations? Should they be in it? That wasn't that long ago. It really wasn't that long ago. And look where they are now. And I know it is a different context for what's happening in Wales, for example, at the moment. But you can rebuild. Teams go through periods of transition, and so there's light at the end of the tunnel, I think, for any team that finds themselves down the bottom.
Takes time. Takes absolute time. Like I say, Wales won the Six Nations, was it 5 years ago? And you look at where they are now. So nobody in this competition, maybe more than any other, has a divine right to win games. Everybody's competing. Everybody's trying to improve and get better and stay ahead of the competition. We'll get onto this later, but, France nailed on for the Grand Slam. They might still win the championship, but you go to Scotland, you get turned over. So anything can happen if you give a team and environment time to develop, build and grow. So, yeah, fair play to Italy. Can't speak highly enough of them at the minute.
Yeah, brilliant scene. So Super Saturday, England, it's the final game. They travel to Paris to take on France, and Italy play Wales in Cardiff. Let's get on to perhaps the most remarkable performance of the weekend. Scotland 50, France 40. What a performance from Scotland, Topsy. I've seen some people describe this as Scotland's greatest ever Six Nations performance, which I think tells you everything about how good they were, putting 50 points on this French side.
Yeah, it has to be up there, absolutely. I know they've had some incredible games through the championship. I think it was a 33-all draw with England, springs to mind. It was one of the more recent ones, but when the pressure was on, with the champions in waiting, coming to town to deliver, can you stand up and can you back up your two previous wins? Brilliant against England, got over the line against Wales. It wasn't a great performance, but got the win. Now can we take it up a level and deliver a performance that makes a bit of a statement? And did they do it? It was a real show of mental toughness as well, because they went behind and you think, right, okay, France are ready. They're going to spoil the party. But no, to bounce back, and the way they did it as well, the manner that they did it, the way they moved the ball, like a true DNA that suits them, but also they're able to mix it up as well. So they've got a pack that can give them set piece, a pack that can run through the heart of a defence, and then a back line that is up there. Look at that spine. 10, 12, 13 always get a lot of the plaudits, but I thought Ben White was brilliant. Really
agreed.
Got stuck into Dupont as well. And yeah, you take out their talisman. I think we spoke about putting France in a position they hadn't been in the tournament yet, asking them to answer some questions they hadn't, and they didn't have the answer.
Yeah, well, I said last week that I think France will have the answers. Boy, did they not have the answers in that second half. They fell apart a little bit, really. We'll have to chat a bit more about France in just a second. Stay on Scotland, because we talk about giving credit. Got to give Gregor Townsend a lot of credit here. Back at the opening weekend, defeat in Rome. Admittedly, as we've seen, Italy are a very, very good side. Rome is not an easy place to go. Couple that with the conditions and the way their set piece fell apart. But so much negativity around Scotland, the way in which they have responded, and now the way in which they have responded that two of their three games, England and France, have been superb performances. Got to give this team a hell of a lot of credit, and they are heading into Super Saturday with a shot at the title.
Huge credit. I mean, Gregor deserves a lot of credit because, again, the pressure that he was under and the fact that speaking about how you kind of bounce back and recover, the players, Sione Tuipulotu, the captain, said we wanted to do that for Gregor, that England victory, and it's now spurred them on to where they are now. So it's now about taking all the years of promise, all the years of perhaps we've under-delivered, we as players haven't put in the performances that we know we can, and going out there and doing it consistently for 3 weekends in a row. Can they now go and create more history and do it against Ireland? Can they? Absolutely. I think they should go there with huge confidence, with huge belief. I mean, I think we asked the question, which would you rather? They're in a position now where they can go and at least for a couple of hours have their hands on the Six Nations trophy, and what a special place that would be for them to be in. So it's great. Yeah. It's great when it's going that way. And like I say, that they have the ability to mix it up, which is huge. You have to be able to do that.
Massive trip for them to Dublin, a place where they haven't had much success recently, but they could be having their best ever Six Nations, which would be huge for them. From the French perspective, how damaging is this Topsy? I think we still know France are a team packed full of good players. The top 14's flying. They've got strength in depth. Their fans are travelling in numbers. They love this team. Rugby in France is in as healthy a position as probably any country in the world. But I just look at this team and they're probably going to win the title again. You would imagine. Based on how you'd imagine that they'll beat England. They'll get the 5 points. They'll have the points different. That France will probably still win the title, which would be back-to-back titles. But it would be the second year in a row that they haven't won a Grand Slam. And I just think for this French team, that has to be a little bit disappointing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will be, because like I say, they scored first, started well, got what they needed, but the manner in which they fell off, the manner in which Scotland were allowed to pressurise them and they weren't able to adapt and find a different solution, that would be a bit concerning. The amount of tackles that they missed, they got into this wide, expansive game and they couldn't really handle it. Their best players got rattled. I mean, I think they said it on commentary, but you got Dupont throwing a forward pass in his in goal. That's pressure.
Yeah.
Even the very best, right, I need to create something out of nothing. I'm not just going to put the ball down and have a goal line drop out. You make a mistake, you give Scotland back the ball, they create pressure, they score points. So worrying, yes. I think in the bigger context of things, like you say, they're going home. It's 120th anniversary. Under the lights, they'll be saying, let's go and win this title emphatically. But there might be something bigger picture where they go, if we're going to be the best out there and thinking ahead to the World Cup, we can't afford that slip up that tends to happen away from home.
Yeah, you can't have moments like they had against Scotland. Like the Springboks will be looking at that and be thinking, no, like next World Cup, no worries, lads. We've got this.
They'll be good till they meet us away from home and they won't be able to hit the levels that they do at home.
And I think in particular, when you look at last year, the game at Twickenham, that they just butchered so many opportunities. This was different because Scotland played really, really well. I don't want to take anything away from them, but I still think, that second half, France just faded, just fell apart, really. I think that is what would concern you about this French team. They're probably going to win second title in a row. Fantastic. They should have won at least one Grand Slam, I think, amongst this.
That's it. Obviously the 2 titles will be brilliant, back to back again. But again, if you are thinking elite mindset, elite competitor, we should have had 2 Grand Slams. The England game, I mean, what was it? The Yips, as Sean Edwards called it, just couldn't catch a cold and they let England stay in the game. But this, Scotland put them under pressure, put them in the fire, as we discussed last week, and they just didn't have a solution. They panicked under the pressure and they ended up losing the game.
The one thing that I suppose you could argue in defence of France, if I was trying to build an argument against what I've just been saying, would be that Fabien Galtier has made some big selection decisions in this Six Nations. I think there is an eye to the next World Cup and building, leaving Penaud at home, leaving Audrey at home, Ficou to a slightly lesser degree, but a very experienced player. And so maybe there is a longer term vision here, but I still think Fabien Galtier might be under, maybe not quite pressure. That's maybe too strong, but I think there will be disappointment in France that then if they win the title, but not a Grand Slam.
Yeah, there'll be some words, but I guess, on what you're talking about, there's also, as some people have said, and it's incredibly difficult to win the Six Nations, let alone win a Grand Slam.
I was just about to say that. Doesn't it underline that again? If you took someone that knew nothing about rugby or the Six Nations, say, well, it's competition, everyone plays everyone, you play 5 games, and there's a thing called a Grand Slam if you beat everyone. That is so difficult to do. They'd be like, oh, it's 5 games. Like, why is it so difficult? But once again, we're seeing it. Why is it so hard to win a Grand Slam?
5 of the toughest teams, back to back. Yes, there's a break week here and there in the oldest, toughest competition in the world. To do that, it's a special feat, and that's why there aren't that many of them across the history of the tournament.
So Ireland 27, Wales 17. The Friday night, there is only one place to start here, Topsy, and you know where I'm going. Justice for the props. Rampaging Rhys Carre scoring the try for Wales. The highlight of the game, but the highlight maybe of the whole Six Nations. Wales lost the game, but that was a brilliant moment.
Oh, the viral prop flying down the wing. Even
smiling
the
before it
slow-mos
scored.
of the smiling. I mean, what a moment for him, and what a turnaround as well, because it wasn't that long ago where he was left out of the squad for being unfit.
Quite publicly.
Yeah.
Warren Gatland did that quite publicly.
Public statement,
Yeah.
like sent a serious message, but we've been talking about turnarounds. Here we are. I mean, he is their first choice prop. He's one of their main carriers. They set up all their tap plays around him, getting him on the ball. He's doing work in the scrum. And yeah, he was at the heart of a really courageous, morale-boosting performance by Wales. Now, of course, they want the win. But if you think of how they've improved through the tournament, they've got better. They've just re-established some hope, some pride within Wales, which is absolutely huge, desperately needed. And they go into this last game with a real belief that we can win it. You know, I mean, was it 240 tackles? I think it was. Alex Mann broke the record, like huge numbers. But that is going to the well, as the saying is, and digging in and saying we will not break. Now, of course, Ireland won the game, yes, but it tells you of a squad that is united, willing to fight, willing to get off the floor and make that amount of tackles and really put your body into it.
Yeah, fair play to Wales, because I think I said last week, and this is Six Nations where you have to own your blunders. But
Yes,
I think
you do.
I said there's plenty of them. I said that I felt that they had thrown their punches against Scotland, and I thought that was probably their opportunity, and I didn't know if they had it in them again. But they were excellent. From kind of the standards that they have produced previously, they were excellent compared to where we maybe thought they were. Have you seen enough from Wales to say that they are past this really dismal period, or have you not got quite enough evidence yet, because maybe you want to see them get that win before you're able to say, okay, that's all done?
Yeah, there's still a bit of work to do. I think, like I say, defence from Friday night, absolutely. Okay, you can see a Steve Tandy drilled team. Like, that defence was ferocious. They made a lot of their tackles, so that was good to see. Again, you want to probably see a bit more output in attack. Like, they actually created some opportunities, but making sure that, after a couple of phases that they haven't lost their way, haven't lost their form. But you have to start somewhere. And if Wales were going to start anywhere in the rebuild, it would have been defence. You look at that defence embodies their head coach. And that is actually a way that you build a team. Defence tells you a lot about where a team is. That intensity, that energy, that physicality, intent, a word that a couple of coaches and teams have used. You see it to its fullest in defence, and then you kind of add the next layers from there.
Very quickly on Ireland, because I want to get on to the games coming up this weekend on Super Saturday. What have you made of Ireland? Because we had an opening night where they would poor against France. Andy Farrell came out and hammered them, said it was below the standards they expect. They were then unconvincing, but got the victory against Italy. They were excellent against England. And again, if you're probably looking at the Wales game, you'd say got the job done, but was nowhere near the levels they produced against England. So in your mind, ahead of this game against Scotland, which will be quite defining, I think, well, definitely defining for both of these teams, how are you viewing Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, Ireland are in a good place, I think. And I think, yes, see, from the England game to this game, maybe there was a slight drop-off in terms of performance intensity, but that was maybe going to happen. It's a Friday night game. It's a different circumstance, different opposition. I think the most pleasing thing is they're winning games and they're dealing with it. So Wales put them under a lot of pressure, but actually they always had them at arm's length. I think the real test of where Ireland are now will come this weekend, where actually, okay, Scotland are flying. They're looking brilliant, playing great attacking rugby, trying to undo, I think it's 2017, the last time they won in Dublin.
Yeah, 11 years,
yeah,
I think.
With all of that being said, no, we've got your number and we're going to suffocate you, we're going to strangle you, we're going to leapfrog you, and actually we're going to be the ones with our hands on the trophy until France play in the evening.
What's more important for this game then? Is it the recent history where Ireland have absolutely had Scotland's number? It's been a huge hurdle that Scotland haven't been able to get over, or Scotland have simply been playing the better rugby in this Six Nations compared with Ireland, so you'd make them favourites? Where's the balance in your mind between those two things?
It's tough. It's a genuine 50-50 because I think both of those kind of equal each other out. The weight of history versus the team arguably playing the best rugby in the tournament. So they kind of cancel each other out. with what I've seen in this Six Nations so far, your head says, "Oh, Ireland are going to win," and it's Dublin. Scotland don't travel very well, but I'm going for Scotland on this occasion. I just think that this is a tournament where the unexpected is happening, and actually, I know people will now back Scotland more than they have done previously, but yeah, I'm on board. I think this is their time to go and do it.
Great way to start the weekend as well, by the way. Triple crown on the line. Scotland could, or Ireland could, potentially put themselves in the position where, okay, before all the rest of the matches, they might be the champions. So that's going to be a great way to start. Wales, Italy, do you view this as Wales are going to get that victory? They've been building. This is the game they're going to win at home, or are Italy going to win their third game in a Six Nations campaign, which would be their best ever? So again, something else. There's so much on the line.
All on the line. I mean, again, this is a really hard one to call. I would probably just side with Italy because I haven't seen enough with Wales's attack that makes me think, right, they're going to go and score 20 to 30 points that will make them win the game. I think obviously they did well against Scotland, but Scotland were not good that day, so they would need Italy to be off it a bit. But again, we're trying to predict what's going to happen, and actually two teams who are now in a much better spot going toe to toe. So I'm looking for. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day.
It's going to be a great day.
I side with Italy just.
And we finished the day. France, England in Paris. Topsy. The two arguments really I could put forward for why England could get it done here, which is clutching at straws, is A, this has been a championship of the unexpected. There have been so many times where we thought we probably knew who was going to win, and then the total opposite happened. And then the second thing is I look back at England's victory over Ireland at Twickenham a couple of years ago, the Marcus Smith drop goal. That was the Ireland team coming in that everyone thought was no way England can lose this team, and they did beat them. The context of that game is very different. It was at home, all that sort of stuff. But that, for me, I think is quite revealing. Those are the only sort of things, really, that I could put forward to why England, maybe they could get the job done, because they are going to be such massive underdogs here.
Yeah, we're almost leaning on historical tournaments. Like, even I was thinking about the 2024 when England went to France and it was a late penalty to lose the game then. So we don't have any current evidence to suggest that England can do it. But, who's to say that given everything that's happened over the last 3 weeks, like, can it get worse? Yes, but they might be like, well, it can't get any worse. So actually, why don't we just, to steal the phrase, swing the bat, have a real go at France and try and upset the party? This was meant to be, we hoped we would be here playing for the tournament or Grand Slam. We haven't delivered on that, but what we can do is finish in a place where people go, okay, you know what, it has been a tough tournament, but that is what the Six Nations is. But actually, England showed that when the bits of their game that are off, they get right, they can compete with the teams out there. So it's going to be fascinating to see. I can't wait for the selection as well.
Yeah.
Do you go back to some more experience, or do you continue to rip it up and give the guys in Italy another go? So that will be very telling. Do I see England winning? No. Do I see them being more competitive? Yes, because they're pretty desperate at the minute.
I think Steve Borthwick is the kind of coach as well that would have had a plan for a little while on how England tackle France in Paris. So maybe they have more shot than most people would expect. I agree with you. I think France will win. I think France will probably win easily. And the selection, you're right, is fascinating because Steve Borthwick was loyal from Scotland into Ireland. The players let him down again. So he completely changed it for Italy. The performance was better, but they end up losing. So what does he do? Does he shuffle his pack again? Does he go with a bit of continuity from the Italy game? So many tough questions for the England head coach. Topsy, we have run out of time. We will have to leave it there. But Six Nations champions are going to be...
It's going to be France.
Yeah.
It is going to be France. They're in the perfect position to do it. So sorry, Scotland, sorry, Ireland, but great tournaments all round.
I agree. I think France will ultimately get the job done. That is it for today. The Six Nations Super Saturday coming up this weekend. We'll look back on that on next week's episode, and we'll have another talkSPORT Daily coming your way tomorrow. Topsy, see you in Paris.
See you in Paris.
See you in Paris later this week, and we'll be back with you, as I say, tomorrow.